Hello, everyone. Welcome to the OWASP conference. My name is Svetlana Samko. I am a volunteer in the OWASP community, Agile Technical Project Manager in Verizon Connect, developer advocate, mentor for women in tech, and web development mentor with a passion for security, data science, and AI. And I will be moderating this session. During the next 30 minutes, we will divide the session in two parts, like 25 minutes for the session and 5 minutes for questions. The session is about OWASP DSOMM project by Timo Pagel. And please submit your questions you have during the session and Q&A tab. Just it's on the right side of this video in the Hua platform. Please do not submit in Zoom because it will not allow you to submit in Zoom, but in Hua platform, please be free to ask questions and Timo will answer in the last 5 minutes any questions you will submit. Let me introduce Timo. Timo has been in the IT industry for over 20 years. After a career as a system administrator and web developer, he advises customers as a DevSecOps consultant and trainer. The focus is on security, test automation for software and infrastructure, and evaluation of complex applications in the cloud. In his spare time, he teaches web and application security at various technical colleges. Welcome, Timo. We are happy to see you here, and please, over to you.
Thank you for the nice introduction. Let me share my screen. Yeah, so today we will talk about measuring your security maturity in your team or your organization, depending on your role. And tool for that is the OWASP DevSecOps maturity model. I will start with some slides, but then we will quickly go to the application itself and analyze how the model is presented in that application and how I can make use of the application around it. Quick words about me. I'm a DevSecOps consultant. And I love open source projects like the Juice Shop, like the DevSecOps maturity model, like the OWASP Security Pins projects, or Defect Dojo, and many others, and I contribute to them. So what is the target of maturity models in general? Brian Glass presented a definition, which I have slightly adjusted here, but the base is from Brian. So the target of maturity models is to analyze current software security practices, build a security program in defined iterations, show progressive improvements in secure practices, and define and measure security-related activities. So here is a story of what I did. I created a plan for the tests for a company, and we wanted to introduce these tests over a time range of 1 or 2 years. From that, we have done so far only 1/3. So that's why it's important to do it in small iterations, continuously improve, because it doesn't make sense from what I have recognized to make a big plan in the start. All right. So as we know now the definition of maturity models, I would like that you fill out the poll in the app so that we can figure out how many of you are fully aware of your DevSecOps maturity, how many of you are partially aware, and who is not aware. You will find the poll in the Hua app on the right. Please fill it out. What I mean by area of influence is because depending on your role, your area of influence might be your team or the whole organization, or as an architect, often some teams, or as a product owner, often you have multiple teams. So that's why I say area of influence. So in your area of influence, are you fully aware of the DevSecOps maturity? Do you have the insights, or are you partially aware, or are you not aware? So far, we have answers which are all partially aware. So that means that you do have some insights, but not the whole coverage. That is a good start, because it means you will be able to quickly fill out the DevSecOps maturity model to gain even more insights. I will show you in this talk how to do that. Beforehand, we need to get to know a bit the DevSecOps maturity maturity model in general. So we have the DevOps dimensions. Then we have subdimensions for these different dimensions, and in the subdimensions you have multiple levels, 4 levels. It starts with maturity 1. And as higher the maturity goes, as higher is the effort of implementation of these activities, or as less security benefit is in there. Maybe you have other benefits from certain activities which are not in the area of security, but we focus obviously on security in the model. These are the different dimensions: build and deployment, culture and organization, information gathering, hardening, and test and verification. As I said, we have 4 maturity levels, and level 1 means that you have a basic understanding of security. Level 2 means that you have an adoption of basic security practices. Level 3 means that you have a high adoption of security practices. And level 4 means that you have advanced deployment of security practices at scale. So that are words here. Mainly it's level 1. You have little security, and level 4 means you have a very, very high security level reached. You might ask, why are there some spots white? So these white spots come because the model is created in a way where it makes sense to have activities. So when it doesn't make sense to have here in application tests, for example, activities at level 1, because you first have to do other activities at level 1, and so you can start with level 2. That's why it's white. So there is nothing which makes sense at level 2. That's why it's white. Some other maturity models are created in a way that they are very structured. They wouldn't allow such things, but I say it's important to focus on the activities, and they are done in the right order. That's why we have white spots. These are a simplified view of dependencies, which can be across different subdimensions. So in the build subdimension, on level 1, you have defined build process, and that is, for example, the base for all the different tests we do. Because in case a build isn't defined, it's very hard to perform static testing, because you need to know where is the source code checked out during the build process, so that you can define, please, my static test will test these specific folder or these specific artifacts, but therefore it needs to be defined where they are. Defined build process here means, for example, that you have it in code. It doesn't need to be documented in a Word document or a wiki page. It just needs to be defined so that you can reproduce it. And mostly you will do this in code in your build server, for example, in a Jenkins file, or you can also do it, for example, in GitHub Actions, or and so on. Then on level 2, on the next, let us continue with level 1. In the test and verification, you have, for example, the subdimension static dev, and in there we have tests of server-side components with known vulnerabilities. When you're very precise, this is software composition analysis, but as this doesn't make sense to put it in an own subdimension, it's here in static dev. And this doesn't have more dependencies, but you can see that the static analysis for important server-side components here, that has on level 4 other things which depend on the static analyze for important server-side components. So that can be, for example, a tool like find security bugs. First, you just analyze important components, maybe authorization components, and later all self-written components. And afterwards, maybe you do vendoring. That means that even the open source code you pull, you want to perform static analysis. This is level 4. That is very, very high maturity. So here you can see that level 4 mostly is something which you're not targeting. Mostly you are targeting level 1 and level 2, maybe some things from level 3 and some activities from level 4. But your main target should be to fill out level 1 and 2. Yeah, when you are, in case you're a developer, you should start with your own team. And now, as I said, as this is a showcase, let us take a look at the application here. So this is the application which has a dimension and the subdimension, which I have presented beforehand, and the different maturity levels. So you can, for example, take here a look at the dimension build and deployment, then the build, and here we have the defined build process, which we have seen in the slide beforehand. You can hover and get to know a brief understanding, so it informs you about the risk when you not have a defined build process, and the opportunity, what do you gain when you have a defined build process. When we click on it, while we are in the metrics, we get even more information, like examples, how you can assess if you have this or not. For example, to show your build pipeline and exemplary a job. And then you know, okay, is this there or not? Then another way is that you show that every team member has access to that build server, and you can also provide evidence in a way that failed jobs are fixed. Depending on your scope, you might do it for your own, for your team. Then you don't need to be so precise. These are just helpful in case you do it to document your security maturity for someone else. Then it might make sense to fully cover these assessment questions and document it. In addition, we get implementation hints because this is a very, this is an abstract information here, which doesn't go into much detail. Sometimes it helps to get tool examples, like you can see down here. So you have an example, and here, these are mainly hints for documentation, hints, not tools in this case, but I think you understand that the tool is often helpful when you don't understand the description. In addition, we get some metrics about those activities. So is it a high value, a medium level value, or a low value, or even a very high value or very low value? How much knowledge do you need to implement this? How much is the required time to do it, and what are the resources you need? In addition, you have a mapping to OWASP here, the OWASP Software Assurance Maturity Model, and to the ISO, so that you can also map to the ISO appendix dimension. You can scroll through it and see all the different subdimensions with the activities inside. And in the end, you get some statistics of how many activities are there, how many dimensions, how many subdimensions are there. It doesn't make sense in this presentation to go through all the different activities, but we can go through some samples so that you get an understanding of what is required in different subdimensions. So we talked already about build. In deployment, it's about the deployment process. So nowadays you define that, for example, in Argo CD or other tools. So that means defined deployment process. Then we have patch management. You might utilize a tool like Dependabot or Renovate to automate pull requests. So that is meant here. And by having this automated pull request, you should define a policy. How fast should these different open pull requests getting merged? Maybe you take into account that there is a security flag or not, which highlights that there is a vulnerability which is getting fixed, and so on. Then in the design phase, we are talking mainly about threat modeling and how to evolve threat modeling. In the education subdimension, it's about training and how you enhance the culture. So it's very important that there's not one architect in a big organization. It should be in a way that the architect has different satellites in the team called security champions or security ambassadors. And that is what this education and guidance is about. Then we have process, where it's about how you can shift to the right. So what are the things, the activities you have to do on the right? Like you get an idea about how critical are the applications which you're having. What are the plans you are having in mind when you're having prepared when, for example, a system is not available. Then application hardening. Here, I make my life very easy here. Because the DSOMM references here over to other maturity models, which is the application security verification standard and the mobile application security verification standard. So when you want to tick the box here that you have these implemented, then you will need to follow these both standards. Then we come to development and source control, where it's about how do you use your version control system. And the first question here is, are you using a version control system? Because that is not always there. Sometimes people at a low maturity are working with folders to perform versioning. That is not what I mean with versioning. So this is just something like Git. All right, then we come to infrastructure hardening. So for example, in these modern environments, every small system like a container might be able to talk with other containers in the system or in the cluster, and that is something which we don't want. And this is called isolated networks for virtual environments, because when you take a look at this model, it's not defined if you're using a cluster or if you're using plain Docker installation, or if you're using virtual machines. So that's why I try to abstract it a bit, but I try to be as close as possible at the doing. Then we come to logging. So in the logging, it's about how is there a centralized logging, and is it visualized, is it in time, and so on. Then monitoring is about the monitoring of your applications. But as you know, when you're working with AWS, for example, mostly it's recommended to also create metrics for budget. So when you estimate your budget for a month, and when you create a threshold, and then you inform yourself with alerts that you're over that budget, for example. So that is the first thing which is mostly recommended, or that you have simple application and system metrics. Application tests. These are tests which you create with JUnit, for example, so unit tests, acceptance tests, and so on. But with a security focus, obviously. So when you're doing tests, some people might want to tick the box here and say, yeah, I have unit tests, but the question is, do you have it focused on security? For example, what are the first tests I would implement are tests for your authorization frameworks, so that you test for this endpoint. I would like, when this input happens, that it's authorized, and when this input happens, that it's not authorized. So that are things which you do in the application test. Then we have consolidation. That's very interesting here, because we have a lot of different tests we can perform. And what you should question yourself is, how do you want to handle false positive? How do you want to have the process when you are want to accept a finding, for example, in known vulnerabilities. There might not be a patch right now, but you expect it in 5 days. So how do you want to accept this so that you're not getting alerted again? So in DevSec, in DevOps, we want to have everything automated. That means also the test cases are automated. And when you have more of these tests running, let's say every day, you don't want to get informed about the same vulnerability you took a look at yesterday. So you need something to handle that. And here comes the question, do you want to handle it in the tool itself, or are you already planning to have multiple tools? Then it's highly recommended to jump directly to level 3 and utilize the vulnerability management system. But when you know you only want to have 1 or 2 different test tools, then you might just use the capabilities of their tools. And then down here, we come to even more different tests, and that you have to adjust it based on the test intensity. Then we come to implementation levels. Here you have the option to simply click on the activities to mark that you have implemented or to mark that you haven't implemented. So mostly you start with the white metrics and then you go through these different dimensions. As I said, I recommend to go first through level 1 and 2 and don't take a look so much at level 3. Because you will, I already identify some, mostly you will identify some missing things. So it's recommended first fill out completely level 1 and then 2. Sometimes you want to adjust the model because there are a lot of different tests here which you can perform. And for one customer, for example, we defined that we don't want to perform dynamic tests at all because they are very expensive to implement. And that meant that we say, okay, this is not part of our DevSecOps maturity model in that organization, but all the other things we kept. So that we just have, what I do in that case is to mark this here as gray, for example, completely. You open GIMP and just mark these fields as gray, and these ones also, and then everyone knows, okay, we are not focusing on that. In addition, I might also go to level 4 and level 3 and mark that also as gray as not planned right now because we want to focus on level 2 and level 1. By creating the model, when you want to adjust it, it's also important to take in mind the ease and the value of implementation. And then you can take a look here at the different subdimensions and take a look at the different activities in here. We also have mappings to SAM and ISO, as I told you beforehand, in one activity, but mostly when you want to have the mappings, you would like to see it all at once. So this is what this page here is for. You can say, okay, I would like to only show the performed activities. And then you get here the mapping to these different, to SAM and ISO for the activities you actually have implemented. The Chief Information Security Officer might be very interested in these. In addition, you can get a full report, so all the different things which are described in the activities are shown here. Yes, so that you can kind of print it and give it to an auditor in case you want to. We have a page for the usage. So how do you use it? Actually, there is kind of a level 0. Some pre-requirements are there. For example, that you that the product owner do have the buy-in to do it, that the upper level management also wants to create such a maturity model and stick to it and improve, continuously improve. In addition to this talk here today, you see that in the README of the project, there are a lot of different links where there are different points are in the focus. And the last thing I would like to tell you is where you can find the model. It's on GitHub, and you can easily take a look here in the GitHub repository. Yeah, thank you. Maybe one last words for the conclusion. So it's very important that you just start with your area of influence and go through the model, click the boxes where the activities where you think you have implemented it, and then plan your next step. For example, for the next 3 months, what do you want to implement in the next 3 months? Don't take too much, just one activity that will be enough for 3 months. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Timo. It was perfect. It's very interesting and a lot of information in just 25 minutes. Thank you. So the first question that I have is it is obvious that there is an overlap with OWASP SOMM in certain areas. Are you actively trying to align or differentiate content with the SOMM, focusing on technical aspects of DevSecOps instead of mixing application security aspects might be a good complementary way forward?
So the first question was related to what is the difference between SAM and DSOMM, right? And the overlap.
Yeah, so yeah, are you actively trying to align or differentiate content with the SOMM? And
as you have seen in the mappings, I try to map the different activities to SAM. And that means when you perform a SAM assessment, you get a very broad description of what you have to implement. For example, when you go to SAM, they say, please do dynamic application security testing, but they don't tell you exactly how you can do it, how you can evolve. And that is what you can see here. So in the first step, you just perform a simple scan to get to know these dynamic testing tools. And then you enhance the coverage and maybe the intensity of the tool. So you get to improve. So that is, I would say, the difference. You get here more fine granular view. That means it also takes more time to perform the assessment in case you want to go through level 1 to level 4. But as I said, it's easy to just do level 1 and 2 first, and then later you think about level 3 and 4. I would say also the focus is different. Why I would perform a SAM assessment to convince management. I would perform a DSOMM assessment when it's more related to technical, to the technical people who also want to implement it afterwards, because then you can more fine granularly use it. Also, you could create a base model with DSOMM, which will be hard with SAM itself.
Very good. Thank you very much. Great answer. And another question. I heard DSOMM participate in the Google Summer of Code. What the student is doing there?
Yeah, we have a student, Aryan Prasad. He is redeveloping this whole application. This is a bit old school, right? I developed it during my master's thesis. It's written in PHP completely. Now we will get an Angular application. He will create an Angular application for it. So in case you use this UI and identify features you would like to have, now is the right time to create an issue so that we can think about if we want to put it in the backlog.
Sounds great. That's perfect. So I hope people can also contact you and ask more questions if there is any relevant questions about the topics that you shared, right? you are open to add more questions after presentation. Is it fine? Yeah, great. Thank you, Timo. It was very good, very interesting, and we had questions. And thank you for participation and being a great speaker. And thank you for your questions. And that's finishing our today's presentation. Please check agenda and move to the any other presentation you are interested in. But now we are moving to Launch Expo.